Hello and welcome. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Ishan Russell. Tonight, we discuss the issue that has been the cause of a heated debate in Parliament, as well as drawing rooms, tea stalls, and even social media across the country. The issue is that of intolerance and whether it's been on the rise in the country or not. In Parliament, though, the Congress, the left parties, and the Trinamool Congress have given separate notices to seek a discussion over the matter. Even the JDU has. While the NDA has consistently maintained that as far as any issue is concerned, including intolerance, they're willing to debate it in the House. Even the first 2 days of the winter session that saw Parliament debate the Constitution and the idea of India, both the government and the opposition traded charges over the issue of intolerance. And one thing is for sure, that this issue has polarized India right down the middle. So what is the way forward from here, and what happens to other legislative business in Parliament? To answer these questions this evening, I'm joined by SanjayJaiswal, Lok Sabha MP of the BJP, Rajeev Gowda, Rajya Sabha MP and spokesperson of the Congress Party, and Smita Gupta, political editor at The Hindu. Mr. Jaiswal, I'll start with you because you're right here with me. In terms of what the government strategy is, it seems that the opposition is rallying and is saying that as far as this particular issue is concerned, the government has been in a denial mode, and therefore they want the government to accept that intolerance has been on the rise. What's the government stand and what's the way forward?
The first thing, whatever has happened, whether it's a Kalburgi death or a Clark death, it's not good for our country. We have been a very tolerant society, and we always remain that. One stray incidents here and there, and you can't say that whole community is like that. Maybe it's majority, maybe it's minority. But the real issues are that in Parliament, a responsible member of parliamentarian, a responsible person, like we are seeing so many persons who are from the field of literature, cinema, they are also saying that I am returning my awards because India has become an intolerant country. Is that a solution? Ideally, they should have told look, Mr. Prime Minister, you are not doing this thing right. You have to check this. You should ideally move in this direction, and that's the best for our country. But instead of telling that, they are speaking, they are just returning the awards. And if you see the list, they are the most people who were there in the Varanasi elections when they said we will never allow to Mr. Modi to become a prime minister. So if you take one incidence, and law and order is not a incidence of central government, it's the incidence of a state. And anywhere it happens, I'm not saying that Mr. Mulayam Singh's government is on fault or Mr. Sitamaraya's of Karnataka government is on fault. These incidents, if happening, should be dealt very firmly, very clearly, and they should be stopped. But just putting 5 or 7 incidents and you say that we are a person of people of 125, 1.25 billion people. And just by 5 or 7 or some, it's like that if 10%, 27 persons have gone to ISIS, Syria, and we say the whole community is moving. Is it true?
All right. But Mr. Rajeev Gowda, coming across to you, the opposition, of course, will contest what Mr. Jaiswal has been saying. And this has been the government's constant communique as far as this is concerned. And is there a problem as far as the opposition is being viewed? Many are saying that it could be viewed as obstructionist. Is this a tag that the opposition doesn't want? And what's your strategy as far as the intolerance debate is concerned?
The word obstructionist is used very loosely. We are not interested in obstructing Parliament. We are not interested in obstructing anything. We want to ensure that the nation moves forward in harmony. And what we've seen in the last few months is a worsening of the situation across the board. Now, my friend Mr. Jaiswal says stray incidents. These are not stray incidents. These are incidents that essentially serve as a tipping point. Basically, people, you have a government that has got elected, whose ideology is fundamentally that of Hindu majoritarianism, and it got elected partly by appealing to people who pay attention to that kind of an issue, and and they also got elected on a development platform as well. And when then you see that the development is not really happening, but what is coming out is the communal DNA sort of expressing itself, then people are really worried. And who are worried? It's not just political parties who are worried. Political parties have now got Parliament an opportunity to actually, put the government on the mat and say, why are you not responding? And why are you not taking action? Why are you not reassuring the nation when these sorts of, forces are out there? But really, the people who stood up and returned their awards are people who essentially represent the conscience of the nation. People who have a substantial number of them who have not gone to Varanasi and campaigned against Modi. A large number of them are people who are aghast that the Sahitya Academy did not even utter a word when rationalist writers were attacked and killed. So basically, there is this larger worry that the atmosphere is worsening, and that when the Prime Minister is expected to stand up and denounce his cabinet colleagues, his fellow members of his party in Parliament, when they make provocative statements, when they make divisive statements, instead the Prime Minister goes to Bihar, and right there in the heat of the campaign, he attempts polarization by talking about how Lalu Prasad and Nitish Kumar are going to take away reservations from the backward classes and give it to another community. Everyone understands what he means, and everyone right there says any words that he may speak in terms of being conciliatory and sabka saath, sabka vikas and all that is just totally bogus, and the true nature of the Prime Minister and his divisive agenda comes forth in stark reality for everyone to understand. And when that happens, people say, my God, where is this country going?
Right.
We talk about a country that was trying to enshrine tolerance and harmony, and instead, right from the top, we are going to see a signal basically suggesting that it's okay to go out there and lynch people on the basis of rumors. This is where we are heading, and that is why the conscience of the nation has stood up, and we in Parliament are standing up now and we have an opportunity to express our concerns, and that is what we want to bring forth on. We need Parliament to function for that. We don't need obstruction. We need Parliament to function, and we need to hear back from the government.
All right, waiting to hear back from the government, and even the debate over the constitution over the past 2 days. Rajya Sabha discussed it today as well, but the Lok Sabha for the past 2 days, Thursday and Friday, also this matter came up, even while discussing the constitution, the issue of intolerance. But Mr. Jaiswal, as Mr. Gowda was pointing out, that there have been members of the cabinet, there have been union ministers who've made statements that really could be very polarizing in nature, that have identified communities and said that there is a particular problem over there. So in that sense, responsibility, where does it lie? I mean, it's not just 1 or 2 stray incidents, but a larger design, as Mr. Gowda is saying.
It's not larger design. And what central government action can take if something happens with a clerk, then should we put a governor's rule in Uttar Pradesh, or if Mr. Joseph hand is cut by a Islamist, then should we put a governor's rule in Kerala? Is the way to move ahead in a democratic setup? There are few people in everywhere who speak so many things. We have never supported these kind of things. I have been in the meetings on Tuesday meeting every time. It's a very clear instruction by our Prime Minister that let our spokesman to speak, and rest of us, we should keep tab on us, and we should not speak unnecessary. But the problem is that whoever member of parliaments or people who are speaking any nicest word, nobody is bothered about it. If someone says one small thing, that's there in every
I think when that small thing targets a community, it could become a problem. But Smita, Gupta, coming across to you, in terms of what we expect to see now in Parliament, the parties, the opposition, the Congress, the left, and the TMC and the JDU have all given notices to discuss the issue with or without voting, notices on both these fronts. So in terms of what do we expect to happen in Parliament over the coming week?
Clearly, the intolerance issue tops the agenda of the opposition, because it is a very serious issue. It sort of hits at the very nature of India, the very idea of India. And it is also one of the reasons we saw that despite the fact that the BJP played it tough, they lost the Bihar elections. Now, but going from that to the larger issue of whether the government can get its legislative agenda going, whether it can get Parliament to function. I think we just need to look back at the last 18 months of parliamentary functioning. I think when this government came to power, the BJP, it somehow assumed that because it had got a mandate to rule, it could ride roughshod over parliamentary procedures. It did not need to bother about the opposition at all. And this was largely seen even, the Prime Minister himself showed scant regard for the House. He was hardly ever came to the House. And we have seen since then that this has not really functioned. This could have functioned in Gujarat, where the assembly almost did not function. But here, in Parliament, there is far greater scrutiny. So whether it is things like important bills that need to go to select or standing committees, which the government tried to resist. So now we saw on last Friday, we saw that the Prime Minister has finally realized that unless he engages with the opposition, in the absence of a majority in the Rajya Sabha, he has to engage with the opposition. We also heard him speak in the Constitution debate, where he was extremely conciliatory. He even reached out to the Congress party, praising Nehru, and his tone was completely different from that usual mocking kind of tone. So I think that if this government wishes to move forward with its governance agenda, with its economic reforms, it has to engage with the opposition, it has to negotiate with them on bills, critical bills like the goods and services tax bill, and on various other issues. Otherwise, this government, within 18 months, people are talking about policy paralysis, something that we only spoke about in the case of the Congress-led UPA, and it's the 8th year of government.
Right. All right.
So I think that the Prime Minister must realize that as Prime Minister, he has to answer questions on major issues, whether it's about intolerance or whether it is about economic issues. He has to engage with Parliament, he has to engage with the opposition. It's not enough to engage abroad.
All right, I'll just like to apologize to our viewers in case you couldn't hear Smita Gupta very well. We'll try to re-establish that audio link with her and get those inputs in once again. But basically saying that the Prime Minister has taken that initiative to reach out to the opposition, but has that broken ice with the opposition? Rajeev Gowda, I'll put that question to you.
Well, it's a welcome gesture, the fact that he is being more conciliatory and reaching out and discussing issues of national importance with us. But the fact remains that at crucial moments, for example, after the Dadri lynching, which horrified the nation, that whole Dadri lynching, the modus operandi of communal polarization was laid bare for everyone to see. Someone went to a temple from the outside, got a story broadcast saying some person is eating beef, and then instigated a mob to go there and lynch the man, right? So that how these riots take place became very, very clear. And afterwards, the people left holding the bag are the people from the village who are the ones who did the lynching, and the people who instigated that have gone away, right? So basically, at a time like that, when people were aghast, we wanted the Prime Minister to speak, and we did not hear that. So, sometimes the Prime Minister will make nice noises, and most other times he will just give what seems to the rest of the world as tacit approval of horrific actions and divisive actions on the part of his Parivar people. So so we don't know, is he a good cop, is he a bad cop, is he the Prime Minister of all Indians, or is he pursuing a divisive agenda? So that's really an issue of great concern. Let me remind you of the previous budget session. The fact that both houses worked for more than 100% of the time, numerous bills were passed, and when there was much more engagement with the opposition. The moment the government becomes imperious and arrogant, when they are unwilling to debate an issue or explore taking action against people, that's the other thing. It's not just talk. We want action. right? When somebody like Mahesh Sharma, the Minister of Culture, makes statements that are provocative and divisive, we need a statement from the Prime Minister chastising him, and then we possibly need his resignation demanded as well. So when we don't see these kinds of actions, first we don't see talk, and then when he goes into the Bihar election, we see divisive and polarizing talk,
Right.
and then afterwards conciliatory speak. So where is the action? Who do you believe? The Modi of the election campaign or the Modi who has just been speaking nicely in the last couple of days? So it's a very, very difficult situation that we face, and we are, we want the nation to move forward. We want economic progress. We want economic bills to go through, but that cannot happen in an atmosphere of intolerance, a worsening intolerance, and with a government with an ideology that is something that a large number of Indians worry about, the majoritarian agenda.
All right, Mr. Jaiswal, the fact is that you attend those parliamentary party meetings of the BJP every Tuesday. Is there a worry that the focus has shifted from development to other issues that really the BJP, I mean, in its election campaign did not want to talk about, and it's being heightened by the fact, as Mr. Gowda was taking those names, or the examples of ministers like Mr. Mahesh Sharma of Sadhvi Prachi, giving out statements that are not really in keeping with
See, first Mr. Gowda said that what has happened in Dadri. But if he is not happy with the actions taken by Mulayam Singh Yadav, then what he wants from us? We can only ask Mr. Akhilesh Yadav to take a proper action. And I think the government has taken action against those culprits. There's no doubt about it. And if any incidents happens, the government has to take an action. The person's culprit should be booked under the law, and that has been done. So just
but what the opposition is saying really is that there should be a message from the top that this will not be tolerated.
See, it's not been tolerated. He is very consistent in saying that, and he has never moved outside his agenda of the development. We have been a part of the government, and it's the responsibility of treasury benches to run the parliament. I don't have any doubt about it. But to run a peaceful parliament, we cannot interfere in all the state's affairs. It's the state which has to take a proper action against these incidents. And if this kind of incidents happens and immediate action is taken against the culprits, I am sure this will nail down these kind of people, and things will move ahead of these things. But just saying that there has been an incidence of Dadri, or there has been an incidence in Kulburgi, or some incidents in Kerala, Mr. Modi should react with each and every incident. I think that's not fair with the Prime Minister.
All right, Smita Gupta, putting this question to you about the Prime Minister speaking on these issues. Now, a section of the media has also been quite insistent on the Prime Minister speaking out. In terms of, given how past Prime Ministers have often reacted under pressure, do you think Mr. Modi is doing what his predecessors have done, or he could have been a little different in this regard?
See, if we take up the incidents of the Dadri lynching or the murders of Kalburgi, Pansare, etc., yes, in a way, Mr. Jaiswal is right that these happened on the watch of state governments not ruled by the BJP. But the fact is that even the BJP knows and the whole country knows that the reason why such incidents are taking place is because the BJP and the Sangh Parivar and its affiliates have created an enabling atmosphere in which such incidents take place. I mean, they know very well themselves how why this is happening. So while we can blame Akhilesh Yadav or, Sida Ramaiah for not controlling the situation, the fact is that the ruling party or people affiliated to the ruling party, one, are creating an enabling atmosphere, and B, after such incidents take place, responsible people like Mahesh Sharma, in the case of the Dadri lynching, General V.K. Singh, after the killing of those two Dalit children in Haryana, they have made statements that are completely obnoxious. And nothing has been done about it. That it's not a Sadhvi Prachi. These are members of Mr. Modi's government. So then it sends a message down the line that this is acceptable. And it is not acceptable. That is what the opposition and what a lot of people in the country are telling the government. And which is why it is so important for the Prime Minister himself to speak. Because when the Prime Minister speaks, then that carries a certain amount of authority. Unless we are to believe that the government is playing two kinds of roles. You know, it says something, but it means something else.
All right, but the argument that is often put forth as far as what the BJP says, Mr. Gowda, is the fact that communal incidents were more in 2013 when the Congress was in power and not during Mr. Modi's term. How would you respond to that?
See, if you look at data, if you just look not at 2013 but at 2014, the first half, and 2015, the first half, the number of communal incidents have gone up substantially in 2015, the first half, under the BJP. Now, communal incidents are, you have to go into who causes it. Right? And in many instances, historically, they have been stoked by members of the Sangh Parivar. But the larger issue is not a question of just data. It's a question of signaling value, right? The Nirbhaya rape was one more, what Mr. Jaitley likes to call one small rape, right? It wasn't one small rape. It was a signal that something is going really wrong with women's safety in this country. Similarly, when you have one lynching like in Dadri, the signal goes out, my God, this is a tipping point, something is going wrong in this country, and we're not seeing the Prime Minister respond and explain to the nation that this is sort of this is not going to be tolerated, that people who see him as their leader will be curbed from doing these sorts of things. And he missed that moment, and he and his party and his entire parivar was exposed as purely communal, and people had elected them partly on the belief that they would put that aside and focus on development. People have been sadly disappointed. And when people say, show me the data, they are missing, they don't have their finger on the pulse of what's happening in India. It's not just about the number of incidents, it's about the atmosphere of fear. It's an atmosphere of, do we have protection in this country when the majority is in government and they're in a position to threaten us and push us to the corner. So these are the sorts of worries that are not encapsulated in the data. I'm afraid that is what is worrying everyone in this nation. And if the government does not respond, if the top leadership doesn't respond in a sincere manner, not just with words, but with some possible action that will actually back up those words, we are in a situation where people are just shaking their heads and saying, my God, when will we get out of this? Are we in the 21st century? Are we able to eat what we want to eat, which is legal? Why are people interfering in every aspect of our lives? What kind of a nation are we going to under Narendra Modi?
All right, Mr. Gowda, one final question to you. I'm taking closing comments, and Mr. Jaiswal, I'll give you adequate time to respond. But what's the opposition strategy from here on? Are we going to witness another washout of the winter session of Parliament?
I personally, as a member of parliament, particularly enjoy participating in debates and discussing bills and speaking and engaging with the government and questioning the government. And so I would personally want parliament to function. I think every party wants parliament to function, but you cannot, if the government stalls debate on intolerance, on price rise, on many of the other issues that are really right there on top of the nation's agenda, then you will have disruption. But nobody comes to Parliament with the intention of disrupting. We want answers, we want action, and we want Parliament to function.
All right, and Mr. Jaiswal, final question to you. Is there a real threat that the legislative business, which the BJP has been pushing as its reform agenda, would that get derailed right now and we could witness another washout?
No, Congress wants to derail those agendas because Congress doesn't want development of this country. They are very clear. They think that if there is no development till 2019, it will help them to coming back to power. They are not thinking about the people of India. They are thinking about how to come in power. And whenever Congress is not in power, the whole India becomes in trouble. It has happened in 77, it has happened in 1996, and it's happening again now. When they are in power, everything is fine. If you see how many communal incidents have happened, it's phenomenal. Every incident made Maliana, made Bhagalpur, made Sikh riots in 84, they all are in the Congress regime, and the Congress, Rajeev Gandhi responded it, Bargat girta hai to dharti hilti hai. This was the response from the Prime Minister of India. But they are always, the country becomes in trouble when the Congress is not in power because they are so used to power, They can't imagine
Okay,
an
but
India
as far as-
without Congress power. See, what has happened in Kalburgi,
So
I'm
Mr.
thankful to
Jaiswal
Mr.
is
Gowda
totally
that he
wrong.
has said that
Mr.
what is
Jaiswal is
legal.
absolutely
So we
totally
should
wrong.
stick on the
Okay.
legal point.
Okay,
And
fine.
it's
I think-
and legally speaking, it's the problem of Mr. Akhilesh Yadav to
All right, you're saying
control
it's a
what is
state
happening
problem. It's a
there.
state-
It's the problem of Mr. Sitamaria, what's happening in Karnataka, because the
Law and order is a state
is
subject.
absolutely a
All right.
state subject. We
Final
cannot
word to Smita
interfere
Gupta
in
because
any
we've run
state
out of time.
subject.
Smita Gupta, what do we expect? Is there going to be a washout with this kind of polarized nature or between the opposition and the government right now? While there have been efforts that have been made to reach out to the opposition, if I would ask to look into your crystal ball of journalism and journalistic experience, what do you see happening?
Well, I think the government is extremely keen to get the GST bill through, and after the meeting last Friday, there will be a second meeting, possibly in a few days. Let us see what happens over there. I would imagine that both sides will have to concede some ground because I think the Congress is quite determined not to give in entirely. So they'll have to find a meeting ground. But I would again repeat that since the BJP is in power, it has a government, it has more at stake really than the opposition right now. It is for the government to try and engage the opposition and not try and play a blame game and bring out things that happened in the past. Because after all, on its performance over the next 3.5 years will depend whether the BJP gets a second term or not.
All right, on that note, we'll have to wrap it up. Smita Gupta, Mr. Jaiswal and Mr. Gowda, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand as far as the intolerance debate is concerned. Well, whether there is intolerance or not, that's a matter that is being hotly debated across the country. And as Parliament continues to discuss this matter, we, of course, will revisit it. But thanks so much for watching for now.